Hey, Brian Wilson with the Libertas Media Project. If you're not subscribing to and reading Gerald Celente's TrendsJournal, you know, it's almost as if you've taken a pass on looking into a crystal ball, seeing what trends indicate and what the future holds. The TrendsJournal, for the uninitiated, their history for accuracy is a matter of record. Now, you can check out any of the past issues and so on. But if you want to be more than just up on the latest headlines, reading the TrendsJournal will bring you a vision and understanding of what the news of today and tomorrow, what the future is going to mean for you, your family, your business, and your country. That's just one of the reasons I'm always happy to spend as much time as possible speaking with Gerald Celente, who joins us here for our little chat. Welcome again, Gerald. First time this year, a long time between drinks.
Yes. Always great being on with you, Brian.
Thank you very much. Look, time is short. And I want to get as much as we possibly can. So let's hop to it. The Winter Trends Journal forecast, the top trend for 2013 is war. Just a matter of a couple of months ago, at the time that you were writing, Syria, Israel, Palestine, Egypt, and other fun parts of the Middle East were dominating the news. And today we've got this child tyrant with some very dangerous toys and rhetoric over in North Korea. The Middle East kind of moved to the back burner in the news cycle to accommodate the North Korea situation. Short term, long term, where's the world going with this new North Korean development? And I suspect we haven't heard the last of Syria and all that's going on over there.
Let's talk about same-sex marriage. I got it. Hey, how about gun control?
Gun control, yeah.
Immigration. Oh, yeah, that's it. That's all they talk about. They're not talking about really the
presidential basketball. Now there's a top one right there.
There's a topic.
23 bricks out of 25. I mean, come on. How embarrassing is that?
And so what's going on is, the first great war of the 21st century has begun, and people aren't putting it together. There's war in Yemen, war in Bahrain, there's war in Libya, there's war in Syria. There's war in Egypt. I mean, John Anthony West, who of course is the executive editor of the TrendsJournal, he just got back from Egypt, where he puts on tours to ancient Egypt, the sacred sites of ancient Egypt, and he's renowned for proving that the Sphinx is at least 10,000 years older than currently dated, and that's a whole big story about that.
I'm glad he came back.
Yeah, well, that was it. He's saying the place is breaking down.
Wow.
It's really deteriorating right in front of their eyes. He goes back frequently. And so then you have Tunisia. And of course, that's where the so-called Arab Spring began. It was no Arab Spring. It's a lot of poor people that are angry that a few rich people have everything. And they're living on $2, $4, $5 a day, and they've had it. Corruption from the top of the pyramid down. And so then you go over to Europe. You go to Spain. Indignados are taking to the streets continually. Portugal, same thing. Go to Greece. Hey, how about 30% unemployment, well over 50 for youth? And the same thing going on in Spain. Look at the new unemployment numbers coming out of Eurozone. They're depression-era levels in some of the areas. They never call it a depression. It's war. It's class warfare. And then you keep going around the world, and you see, as you were mentioning, as the new year began, remember that little lovely incident in Mali? Oh, yeah, they can't go over that French Sudan trip, huh?
Right.
They only had it from, about 1890 to 1960. They have, so what, that they just pulled out 50 tons of gold, 43 tons last year, and it abuts Niger, and of course, France gets 75% of all its uranium from Niger. 75% of its electricity is all nuclear, and they get most of their uranium from Niger. So you can see what's going on around the world. And now you mentioned North Korea. But there's more parts to the story. Yeah, this guy's out of his mind. He's a lunatic. Those photos that they show out of this thing right out of a Marvel comic book, what's the United States doing there? How about all the war games going on around there? How about the other provocative actions? They're going to have a missile test, and when they have a missile test, it's a big deal. But didn't the United States just cancel its missile test?
That's correct.
Yeah. So how about hypocrisy? And how about those lovely wars that keep going on in Afghanistan? How many more were killed the other day in Iraq? So you can see what's going on. We're seeing a replay of history. You had the crash of 1929, the Great Depression, currency wars, trade wars, World War. You had the Panic of '08. You have a Great Depression going on, even in the United States. I mean, I know you're hip to John Williams' shadow stats.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at his information, it's ranging in the 20% marks. When you really add in what's going on and the jobs being created, how much temporary work and how many people dropped out of the workforce. And then, as I mentioned, I just went through Europe and the Middle East. And of course, what's going on in Israel, like it continues to go on with Palestine, and then now Lebanon's being dragged into it. So then you have currency wars. What did Japan announce last week? They're going to print $1.6 trillion to boost their economy.
Stimulus on steroids. That's correct, sir.
And what do you have in the United States?
More of the same.
More of the same. What do you have in the ECB? Let's call it. We won't call it quantitative easing. I got a good name for you. How about OMT? Ongoing monetary transactions. Or how about long-term financial operations? Do you like that one?
I like that. Well, you know, Bernanke got that quantitative easing thing. Everyone else has to settle for some other sort of name. But Gerald, eventually all these wars have got to have a positive impact on our economy.
This ain't like the old days. You know, in 2000, Brian, I was brought down to VMI, Virginia Military Institute,
mm-hmm.
to talk about New Millennium Warfare. I'd written Trends 2000 a few years earlier. It was a very big book. It was a national bestseller in 18 different languages. And they brought me down to talk about it. You know how they say the generals are always fighting the last war?
That's what they say.
Yeah, it's evidenced by the losing wars that are being fought now, by the way.
Well, there is that.
Yeah. So they asked me to talk about it. And I said, it's not going to be tanks or F-whatevers. And it's going to be, F-16s, or the plane of the time was. I said, it's going to be wars of weapons of mass destruction. Just think of what happened in the United States when Hurricane Sandy hit. The East Coast was closed down. Could you imagine a dirty bomb going off in New York? A suitcase-sized nuke going off in San Francisco? Biological warfare in London? You have complete chaos. The people that are playing with war are, in the truest sense of the word, playing with ultimate destruction. You know, Einstein said, I don't know how the Third World War will be fought, but the Fourth World War will be fought with sticks and stones.
So mutually assured destruction that worked so well during the Cold War apparently is not functioning as a great deterrent at this stage of the game.
No, because the leaders today are much dumber. We had people like Eisenhower during the Cold War. There was no wars going on during the Eisenhower regime. He was a real commander-in-chief, not a basketball player, not a National Guard guy, not a draft dodger. He's a supreme commander of the Allied forces, 5-star general, 2-term president. Isn't he the guy that warned us that the military-industrial complex was taking over the country?
Indeed, he was. I wanted to ask you about that because there was I don't know whether it was an economic study or a sociological study where the people like Ford, for example, Henry I, brilliant guy, broke new ground, got the assembly lines running and the Model T and the Model A and all the rest, and certainly made a lot of money and all the rest, and grew the company to the giant that it was. Then Henry II came along, and then the third, and by the time you get 3 generations away from the originator, from the original mind, the brilliant mind that got things going, all of a sudden that family and the people who have inherited the wealth and the power and all the rest start to become beyond laissez-faire about the worth of the company, for want of a better term, the social conscience of the company rather, and things just all start to fall apart. It almost appears as if our world leaders, noting the death in England of the Iron Lady today, seems to be following that same trend.
Oh, look at them. They call leaders? These people couldn't lead me across the street. What, are you kidding me? If Obama, Bush, Clinton were on one side of the street and I was on the other, and they said, Gerald, come over here. I said, come over here if you want to talk to me. What, are you kidding me? Lead me. These aren't leaders. They're political hacks. They all range, your name, go through the line. Blair, Bush, Cameron, Merkel, Sarkozy, Hollande, Obama. You know, they range anywhere between sociopaths to psychopaths.
Yeah, we lost Chavez. You're right. So we have to take him off these.
Yeah, and I won't say anything bad about Putin because I don't want my brains blown out.
No, that's true. We may be.
They go after journalists big time. Oh, hey, he's gone, man. What happened to him? I don't know.
Just move on from that one.
He's got this dart in his back.
You know? But you know, Gerald, something I wanted to ask you, because I know you deal in facts, and then you present the facts, and then the motto of the TrendsJournal is to think for yourself. There are a lot of people who think that this is all being divined under some huge international scheme, with the strings being pulled by a select group. I mean, you hear about the Bilderbergers and the Council of Foreign Relations, and you know, and people like that. Is there? And then there are trends, and it seems to me that trends are different than the story being told with regards to, you know, the Bilderberg, you know, the rest of those people. What do you say?
I say that, you know, look with your eyes, and you can see where it's not a conspiracy. It's right out in the open. There's two groups. You know, it's a mafia. It's not, you know, it's not the Capones or the Lucianos. It's not the Jewish, Russian and Japanese mafias. It's not the drug cartels. It's the money changer mafia and the military-industrial complex, as I see it. And when you look at the money mafia, again, it's right in front of your eyes. I got an idea. Listen, let's rig the interest rates. Nobody knows what the hell a LIBOR is, so we could do it. It only matters whatever loan you take out, and we're going to fix the rate. And we're going to do it to the tune of hundreds of trillions of dollars because that's what we're controlling. That's not a conspiracy. It's a fact. Agreed or disagree?
Agreed.
All right. I got another one. Let's rig the bond market. What do you mean rig the bond market? Here's what we're going to do. We're going to buy $85 billion of crap up each month. Treasuries, mortgage-backed securities. We're going to rig the market. You got it?
Yep.
All right. Now, you like some high-frequency trading? How about some insider deals? We'll play the stock market. It's rigged. How about a mafia, a Bilderberg, a Illuminati? Let's start a war for fake reasons. We'll tell them about weapons of mass destruction and ties to Al-Qaeda. And then when it doesn't show up, forget about it. Nobody's going to remember. We're going out. We're going to do. Things will be great. We'll make a lot of money on this deal. We could spend $1 trillion, and nobody's going to care. And we'll kill 1 million people in the meantime and destroy the entire country. But hey, you know what's for lunch?
So I guess the fact that all of that is stupendously counterproductive, in the ultimate sense. You know, that eventually, even with all that power, all that money, and all that ability to pull all those strings, eventually you're going to get to the point where you can't get blood out of a turnip, and all you have left is a dried up turnip.
Yeah, what you have is, it's not, if there's an Illuminati, the un-Illuminati are pulling it off. Yes, there's groups up there that are calling the shots, but you can see the shots that they're calling. You don't know what's going on behind closed doors. Like, for example, we didn't know that the Federal Reserve was pumping in tens of trillions of dollars into the system in 2008, 2009, and 2010 to keep it going. So you don't know those things. And yeah, those deals are being done. But those are just details. You can see who's in control. It's a takeover. It's as simple as that. It's a takeover. You know, people, you know, they moan and groan. Oh, you know, this country, what's happened to it, has turned socialist. Marxist. No, it hasn't. It's the merger of state and corporate powers. It's called fascism. You want to bail out the banks? They're too big to fail. Not in capitalism, they're not. Well, that was the old capitalism. There's the new one. What do you mean the new one? Yeah, that's right. There's the new capitalism.
Goes right along with the new normal.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And it's the money changers. Nothing has changed. From Jesus Christ chasing the money changers out of the temple to James Madison saying, quote, remember, he's the fourth president of the United States, right?
Right.
History records that the money changers have used every form of abuse, intrigue, deceit, and violent means possible to maintain their control over governments by controlling money and its issuance.
That even predates Jekyll Island.
So what do you have?
More of the same.
Crash, depression, currency wars, trade wars, world wars. They will use any form of abuse, intrigue, deceit, and violent means. These are sick people. They're money junkies. Money changers are money junkies, just like a heroin addict, crack addict, meth addict. Name the addiction. You have no bounds or boundaries. You get what you want because you want it. That's all this is. These are sick people. And then we have sick people running the show, as far as I see it, because all they're doing is causing destruction. Name me one great thing that the United States government has done to improve our lives. Oh, they just came out with a new study by the American Society of Civil Engineers or something. Yeah, they rate the infrastructure a D+. Yeah, but let's waste $200 million on an airplane that can't fly. And that's only each. We've got a $35 billion budget, don't forget.
Right.
Yeah, you imagine what this, I'm up here in the old Catskill area, Catskill, New York, Kingston, New York, Colonial Kingston. And I had a discussion. They have all these rail lines. When the Catskills became big, it was because rail lines would come flying out of New York from every direction. So they went to all these resort areas. Now they want to turn them into rails to trails. I say, how many people are going to walk on these things? How about let's turning them back into rails and trails? How about we put 21st century people movers on them and start bringing people back up here and making transportation convenient instead of stupid commuting like we're doing? How about moving into the 21st century when our trains are barely making it into the 20th? I'm a New Yorker. Yeah, going into the New York subway is like a day in Calcutta. And I'm not being facetious. Anybody who's traveled the world knows no train system stinks worse than ours.
I recall my commute to work on the IRT. Let me tempus fugits, and I want people to go to TrendsJournal and read up on all these things to put substance and fact and depth behind all the things you're saying and discussing. But in the winter TrendsJournal, you talk for a little bit about the Second Vermont Republic, and I thought that was I just thought that was great and very timely, as the TrendsJournal happens to be. That because there has been talk, not a lot, not very loud, but there has been some talk about the manageability of the United States, the diversity of the United States, the fact that different people living in different parts of the country are not getting what they want from their representatives because the people, there have been a concentration of people with special interests that stay there. You got the blue states, the red states, and all the rest. So the Second Vermont Republic, kind of struck a chord on that. I was wondering, where might that be going, if anywhere, or was that just a interesting little historical dollop you dropped in there to entice us?
No, actually, it was moving ahead very, very, formidably, and the head of it, Thomas Naylor, a very dear friend of mine, passed away.
Yes.
Man. And so it's kind of been put on hold a little bit. But it's the future. And as we point out in an article written to him just before he passed away, as you look around the world, there are all these so-called secessionist movements. Name country after country. Whether it's Scotland, whether it's, wanting to break away from the UK, whether it's Italy breaking up into different zones, Belgium, throughout the world, Spain. It's too big to rule. Again, I asked the question, show me one thing that Washington has pulled off that's made our lives better, other than pulling money out of our pockets, which has made it worse. So if, for example, you want to have tough abortion laws in Arkansas, move to Arkansas. That's great for you. If you want to have lax ones in New York, maybe that's your place. Let the people decide. The country is too big to be run by a federal government. We've lost our freedoms at every level. We're talking about gun control before. I mean, let's get this straight, okay? A whacked out kid who has Asperger's syndrome, they refuse to release his medical records from Connecticut, goes berserk and kills children and adults. Okay, we need gun control. Wait a minute, what do the two things have to do with each other? The mother who bought the guns would have passed any background check. What's going on here? You know, if you look at the stats again, as I'm sure you're very familiar with because of the kind of work and learning realms that you're in, when you look at all of these mass murders that have been committed by these kids and others, they've all been whacked out on psychotropic drugs.
Right.
No, let's not talk about that.
Yeah,
We're not allowed to talk about that.
Why not?
Because this is the USSA. We'll tell you what to talk about.
Well, I did write a couple of pieces about that. I'm still waiting. The toxicology report on from the autopsy on the Connecticut shooter has not been released. The state surgeon general, or whatever his title is up there, medical director, does not seem to be inclined to want to release it. And while the police report indicated that several bottles of prescription drugs were removed from the home as part of their investigation after the murder and suicide and so on, they don't want to release the names of the drugs that were taken, that were present there. And yet it goes without saying that he was being treated for something, but we don't interview his psychiatrist and we don't get the toxicology report. And my theory is that you're not going to hear about that at 6:30 on ABC, NBC, CBS, or any of the rest, because when they go to commercial break on the network shows, well, who do you see? You see Pfizer, you see Cialis, you see all the various drug companies, Nexium and so on, that are bringing you the evening news. So it would be highly unlikely that the networks would bite the hand that's paying for the news department.
You got it.
But that's just me.
Well, no, but you know what you said, this one won't release this one won't release that.
Right.
You know what? I got an idea. Let's start a war at a foreign country, and we'll tell all the morons out there we're doing it to bring them freedom and democracy.
Yeah.
And they'll wave flags and put up yellow ribbons while we'll lose our freedom and democracy here.
Yeah, when that drone comes down through the fireplace and blows up 18 people and one bad guy, and the other 18 people are just collateral damage ranging in age from newborn to 86, then we just chalk them up as collateral damage individuals that should have been hanging around with the bad guy and go about our business. But despite the fact we blow up children over there, something like Connecticut over here is held to an entirely different standard.
That's right, because we're white.
Yeah, that must be it.
And they got a different color and they dress funny. Like those 10 Afghan children we just killed yesterday.
Right.
By and of course, the commander sends out his sincere apologies and deep regrets.
Again.
Yeah, so the hypocrisy, again, you listen to these politicians starting wars, to bring us freedom and democracy. We don't have it here anymore. And another, and moving on to other subjects, very important for the listeners is what's happened in Cyprus that is now out of the news.
Oh, yes.
And I've been talking about bank holidays now for 2 years.
That's correct, sir.
This is just the beginning. This is the canary in the mine.
I think the canary just flew to Australia. I understand that there was some movement there that sounded distressingly similar.
And you're going to keep hearing it and seeing it because they can't save the system by printing cheap money. I mentioned what Japan is doing. We know what the United States and Europe are doing. There's going to be a point of no return. And it's going to happen, but I believe that they're going to get our minds off it because it goes back to war. People forget that the dot-com crash happened in March of 2000. And it was a huge crash. I mean, you look at the NASDAQ was at 5,000. What is it, about 3,500 now?
Right.
12 years later. And then 9/11 happened. We were in a recession. They lowered interest rates to 40-year lows. Then we went to war in Afghanistan. Then we went to war in Iraq. Did you forget about the recession?
Yeah, it does seem rather unusual that, not unusual, but actually consistent, that when governments find themselves in financial trouble, they, A, take your money and property, and B, start wars.
You got it. And again, I'm not making this up.
No.
It's there for everyone to look at.
Oh, well,
On a good note.
Yes.
Direct democracy. Secession is one. Direct democracy. Again, people are, again, the motto, think for yourself.
Right.
And they say, well, if we have direct democracy, you have a lot of crazy people voting in things.
Yeah.
Well, you got a lot of crazy people, and there's only 535 of them voting in things, and they call themselves senator and congressman.
Well, it's always interesting to me that that's the rhetoric that you hear in response to any sort of logical alternative. Oh, well, if you do that, then, crazy people will take over and all sorts of strange stuff will happen, completely disregarding the fact that crazy people have taken over and strange things are taking place.
You got it.
So, if nothing else is redundant.
I know.
I'd like to give redundancy a chance myself. The peace a chance, maybe. That would be nice. So
a model to look at, as I'm looking at this, and it's going to be a big part of the next TrendsJournal, is that protests don't count. Movements do. And the 5-star movement going on in Italy is something to look at. Whether or not you like the guy, dislike the guy, call him a comedian, Beppe Grillo, or a satirist, whatever label you want to give to him. I mean, who else do you have? I love it. He calls, Beppe Grillo calls Silvio Berlusconi a psycho dwarf.
Psycho dwarf, right.
That's a great line. and when Berlusconi speaks, he calls it Silvio's saliva. But the fact is that 25% of the people voted for this new movement, and they want to bring down the entrenched parties. And to me, that's the only way to do it. The mafia has to stop. We call it democracy. It's the Republicans and the Democrats. It's the Gambinos and the Bananos. It's the Schultzes and the Lanskys. It's no different. And so to me, the future is in the people's hands. And that's what they have to wake up and understand. There are more of us than them. We're talking about, and I know you're a true-hearted libertarian in the greatest sense. We're talking about wars. How come no one is yelling right now? It's stay the hell out of North Korea. It's none of our business. Respect the founding fathers and respect the principles upon which this country was built upon. And if you don't like it, leave.
Well, that works for me. I would only add to your list of the Gambinos and all the rest of that. With this drone situation, it's almost going to be like Murder Incorporated. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of moral distance between offing a family of 18 in some little hut over in Afghanistan, ostensibly because there's a bad guy hanging out in there, and the possibility, despite Rand Paul's filibuster, that something very similar could take place here.
As you well know, it's legal now to kill us with a drone.
Exactly. Just haul out the NDAA.
Because El Presidente of Los Estados Unidos says so.
Yep.
The new banana republic.
It says right here in the NDAA. So there you have it.
And guys like you and I could be killed. They could take us away. You mentioned the NDAA,
yep,
and other people that protest what's going on in the government because we're disgusted with what they're doing, and we want to bring democracy back to America and build it back to the principles upon which the nation was founded upon. They could call us a terrorist. I'll tell you a quick story.
Go.
I got an email from a fan in Bahrain. Mr. Celente, I love your work. I really appreciate what you're doing. Thank you so much for speaking out about what's going on in Bahrain. It's hardly making the media, but there's a lot of other things going on that aren't making the media that I'd like to tell you about. Would you like to hear them? So what's the response? Yeah, I'd love to.
Sure, of course, yeah.
I get an email back from this guy, and it's all this this stuff in in Arabic, and it's all censored. There's censored stamping and everything. Geez. I write back to the guy immediately. I said, "Stop! Don't send me another thing." Because I'm saying to myself, now I have contact with, quote, a terrorist.
There you go.
And now I can be killed for having contact with a so-called terrorist. I don't know who this guy is.
Gerald Celente, fraternizing with known terrorists. I got the email right here.
Exactly. Just don't send me another thing.
You know,
but that's true.
Yeah. No, it's when the application of the rules is as subjective and as wide open as they've been made, then why not? And who's gonna counter it anyway? They say, well, that's the way it is, and let's just wait till the next news cycle. And hey, who do you like in the Final Four? Or who do you like in Michigan and Louisville? It's all these squirrel for distractions and so on. By the way, I've got a new design for the Gadsden flag. You know, the one with the snake says, "Don't tread on me." I think about having it read and say, "Don't tread on anybody."
Yeah. Amen.
I'm going to try and get that thing marketed. Who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, another guy wrote me a letter today, a very intelligent letter, actually. He did a lot of things, and he finally moved to Alaska. He was a lawyer, and now he's just fishing and running tours in the remote islands. And he wants to start a movement calling it Freedom Freaks. And he said, the reason I want to use it is because so many people are control freaks. So how about let's go the opposite way?
Freedom freaks.
So like you said, don't tread on anybody. You know, who are these people to tell us what freedom should be? We know what it is. Each individual is free. Know what freedom is.
Well, it is an interesting discussion. In fact, I think Ron Paul brought it up once. Why is liberty such a hard sell? And of course, and why is freedom such a hard sell? How does that turn out? It would seem to be something that everybody would want. And yet, when you discuss freedom with people, I had a back and forth with some correspondents today with an online magazine. Is that the people that seem to be purveyors of freedom or staunch advocates of it bring with them their own agenda. And that agenda overlays that. So, well, you can be free as long as you obey our rules. Well, where's the oxymoron on that? Freedom, as long as I obey your rules, you're going to superimpose these rules upon me, is an act of force in and of itself. So how does that relate to freedom?
Yeah, let's just start with the Ten Commandments and drop it.
Yeah, there you go. Well, P.J. O'Rourke had a great line, and it's been a long time since he wrote this, so I can't give attribution to the book that it was in, one of them, Parliament of Whores, let's just say. And he said there are really only two rules. You can't hit people, and you can't take their stuff. Yeah. Everything else is negotiable.
Again, it goes back to, the golden rule.
Yeah. Yeah, that one works for me.
Yeah, it works great.
Especially considering the price of gold these days. I think it's, I'm getting pretty good.
I'm sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say I'm getting pretty good at this trends forecasting myself. I had said earlier that we never have enough time to cover even the highlight all the things that are in the Trends Journal, and I'm already getting the checkered flag up here about the 30 minutes we've had. So I don't know. All I can say is I'm a little concerned now about this correspondence you've got with this guy over in Bahrain.
No, I'm not corresponding with him.
Hey, but the speed with which the everything is changing around us, Gerald, we can't let another 4 months go by without reconvening. Right?
I'd love to be back with you.
I hope we can get a few minutes of your time in the next few weeks and see what progress, if we want to call it that, we've made at that point.
Okay.
Okay.
And on the note of gold, as I said, if LIBOR is rigged, if the bond market is rigged, and they're pumping trillions of dollars to boost up their useless currencies, if people start going into gold as they're debasing the currencies, to me, I'll tell you, I believe with all my heart that they're shorting gold and they're rigging the market to keep the people fearful of buying it.
Oh, I absolutely believe that. Gerald Celente, the Trends Journal, you can find them both at TrendsResearch.com. The link will be up on our website. Gerald, be safe.
You too. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Talk soon. Bye-bye.